Hello and welcome, Fish here with another DCS Gazelle video. In this video we're going to look at some of the more advanced features of the Gazelle, and we're going to do this by following through a brief mission. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up on the ground on the ramp, and we're going to start up the aircraft. We're going to go through the process of starting up the Nadir. We're going to talk through the essential components of the Nadir, and we are going to thumb in a reconned target location that we've got in the briefing, and you can see the targets here, and if you look down at the status bar you'll see the location of those targets. So that's the information we have. We're going to also set up the VHF radio and talk to the tower. The other radios we're not going to do anything with because they don't appear to be working correctly, certainly in this version of the software. We're also going to set up the ADF radio for the approach navigation beacons, and so then we're going to follow the flight plan. We're going to request takeoff from the tower, follow the flight plan to steer point 1 onto 2, and then we're going to set down at steer point 2, and we're going to then switch on our weapon systems and our Hot 3 missiles. So that's going to be the fence-in point, and we're going to do that from the ground. And then we're going to go into a hover, and we're going to use the thumbed in steer point from the Nadir system that we have our recon of, and we're going to use that to help us locate visually where the targets are. Once we've located them visually, we're going to attack and destroy them, and that's pretty much the end of our mission. We then need to return to base through steer point 3, 4 and 5. So with that in mind, let's start the mission. And it may not be that short a mission, so I'm going to give a list of the times of the critical elements of it in the description should you not want to watch through the whole video. So here we are on the ground, and while my track IR settles in, I'm going to switch on our battery, and then we're going to switch on our radio and go down to 118 and start up from the tower.
Request startup.
Enfield 1-1. Cleared for startup. Wind 270 at 2 meters per second.
Okay, switch on our anti-collision lights, alternator generator, pump, hack the clock. What we do now, close our door and switch on our mini HUD. 20 seconds, switch on our jet starter. Okay, we're at 25,000 engine revs now, so we can disengage our rotor brake and lock it off and switch on our throttle 30%, or sorry, 30,000 revs, and we can see our rotors now are starting up. Note that the outer dial is in thousands of revs for the engine, and the inner dial is in hundreds of revs for the rotors. So they're synchronized now, and we're going to start moving them forward. Until our indicator light goes out above, and now we have full engine speed. All our gauges look good. Now we're going to start switching on various systems. Our gyro, because it takes a little bit of time to warm up, and now to our panel. Pivot, trim, magnetic brake, autopilot, 3 channels, chaplain flares, taxi light, RWR, and now we're going to start on our Nadir. So we come down here and let's look at our Nadir system while the other things are going on. You see by default our function button, our function switch, which is the top one here, is in the waypoint position, and we're in the off position for our mode switch. So we're going to switch the mode into standby, and now the bit tests start on the Nadir. So we see these they will switch off in a sequence, and you can see that in the documentation, but suffice it to say that these must be all off before we can move into the on mode. While that's happening, let's set up our gauges. So we want to on cage, our ADI, and let's tune it in. Secondary, our backup ADI, tune that in. Okay, I'm going to switch on the radar altimeter there and set it to about 10 meters. Going to move our heading bow ground for torque meter to 90%. Okay, so let's do a quick sweep. Everything else is good, and you can see now our Nadir has all lights have gone off, so our bit test is complete. And what we can do now is we can go to our test position for the mode switch, and in the test switch we'll see these all on again, and this error one will go off after 10 seconds. Actually it's the other one, so it's gone off after 10 seconds, and the only thing we need to check here is when we look at our HSI here, that our bearing point needle is in the 45 degree position, and our distance is at 50 kilometers. So we're all good here, and now we're going to look at the different modes. So let's go back to the terrain mode, and this is the mode that we're going to use for our flight because we're over ground. And once that mode is set, we can see our current steer point comes up as number 1, and we have the latitude and longitude of the steer point, and we can change that from our normal polar or to UTM and back again. So if we want to change our steer point displayed on here, actually let's look up at our HSI, because if we change our steer points by just selecting them in this mode, we can see the bearing point needle moves around. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the different modes here, and different functions. This is the function button up here, and this is the mode switch. And let's start with the vent, which indicates the heading, the wind direction, and the wind speed. So it's at 270 and it's 6 meters per second, so it's coming from a heading of 270. We move up the function switch once more. Now we see this is our current heading, and it should align with what we see on our HSI instrument. And this is the magnetic compass offset. We move up one notch more. This is actually our over overland speed, but we don't see anything. It'll be on the upper line here. We won't see anything until we're in flight. The next one is an indication of time to the next steer point, and it's worked out based on the travel time. I'm not sure, I haven't actually calculated. It seems to maybe indicated in seconds. PP is the current position that we are on the ground, and we can actually enter that position if we wish into a steer point, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So this is all set up now. Let's look at the other buttons here. The auxiliary button here allows us to carry out some, again, additional tests, and there's 3 test modes for that, and we press auxiliary 1. We get 1, 2, 3, 4 up. If we press, just let me fix my track IR first. If we set auxiliary 2, we see a range, and that has to be first one between 204 and 230, and the next one between 39 and 56. So that's all good. And the final test is auxiliary 5, which is basically a visual test, make sure all the indications are on the gauge. Okay, there are other auxiliary functionality there, but most of them are covered by the function switch over here. So we're going to switch back into the BUT mode, which is the waypoint mode, and we're going to now enter in the waypoint for our recon target area, and we first look at the briefing here, and we can see the briefing shows where our expected target location is. So we're going to set that to steer point 9, and we do that by entering 9 first of all, and we're going to press the enter button, and the first line flashes. Now the documentation indicates that you should be able to overwrite this, but what you've got to do is you've got to use the EFF switch to remove all the characters, including the leading heading or direction character. So let's go back in here and look at what we need to type in. So it's north 3715.3. So we choose the north button here. So it's 3715.3, and it's 1 decimal point, even though the information will probably be given from the map in 2 decimal points. So before we enter that in, we're going to use the down arrow to select the longitude, and once again we clear that out, and we go back out and have a look. It's 115.56.3 west, so we choose W, 115.63 56 115.56.3 115.56 115.56.3, and once we've got that in, we just press the enter button to save that. So just let's do a cross check. 37.153 37.153 115.56.3. Now that's all good. Now we can go back to our steer point 1. So we're pretty much ready to go now, and we'll have a look at some of the other modes or the other functions here for the Nadir when we're in the air. Oh, just one final one. If we're in any of the other modes apart from the waypoint, we can still change our waypoint. We can still change the waypoint that our bearing point needle points to. And I'll look at it up here. And we can do this by, let's say we want to change it to waypoint number 2. What we do is choose destination 2 and watch what happens to the needle here. 2 and enter. And you can see we've changed, and we go back to the waypoint mode, we can see that waypoint 2 is now displayed on the screen. So if for instance we're using the function here to display our heading or our speed, and we want to change our next waypoint without having to change out of that mode, we can do it very quickly by doing what we did there. I'm also going to save this position as steer point 8, and we do this in a similar way. What we do is we go into PP mode, which shows us what our current location is, and we're going to press 8. We're going to press gel here first, followed by 8, and followed by enter. And now if we go back to our steer point mode, we should see the PP and 8. If we click on 8, we should see the PP and 8 show no difference. So we've taken the current position and we've stored it in steer point 8. So we're set to go. I think everything is set. Just do a quick scan of the instruments, the gauges, and let's talk to the tower once again. Okay, no, sorry, one more thing I have to do before we go, which is to set up our non-directional beacons. And once again, let's come back to our briefing. And the briefing shows we have two of these. One is at 325 and the other is at 403. So let's just zoom in here a little bit. Okay, so it's 325, and you just move the cursor around until the dial rolls, and there's a dial for the middle, outer and inner, 32, and then roll it down to 5. And the other one is 403. A bit tricky to get the focus correctly. 403, and run that down to 0. Okay, so we can test this now by switching the tone on and then switching the radio on. Just reduce the volume of it down a little bit, and we can see we're getting no signal from 325. And now let's swap it over to 403. You just wait a second, because the indicating tone only comes out at a relatively slow interval. So there we go, we have it. So 325 is not responding, and I have a feeling it's because of those mountains are in the way. We're actually not picking up the signal where we're located here. We'll try it maybe again when we're out of the target area, because we're away from that mountain range, which is to our west. So with that in mind, let's go back into our pilot seat and switch back to steer point 1, and let's request our takeoff.
In field 1-1, request taxi to runway. In field 1-1, clear to taxi to runway 32.
Another point to note is that I've loaded up only with 50% fuel, because it's quite sensitive. The amount of altitude you're going to be able to obtain is sensitive to the amount of fuel you're holding, particularly with a full loadout of rockets here, or missiles. In order to get any kind of a decent altitude without bringing the collective into the red, I had to reduce the fuel load. So we're heading now to the end of 32 here, and we're a good bit away. It's quite a large airfield here, so we're a good bit away. I'm probably breaking the rules and exceeding the speed limit for taxiing, but I'm doing it, otherwise we'd be here all day if we were to do it very slowly. Okay, I just want to put on our taxi lights, which I forgot to do. maybe they're not the right time to be worrying about them. In order to get alignment with the runway, I tend to try and use somewhere between the edge of the panel here and this little gauge down here. So somewhere along here tells me I'm flying straight. Okay, we're coming up now towards the end of 3-2. And I'm going to put it down on the taxiway here because every time I go onto the runway I lose my request for takeoff. So I'm going to just come up to the edge and see will it give me, see will it assume that I'm in taxi mode. If it doesn't matter, we'll just request it again. Just try and get closer to the line. Okay, we'll try it here. No, we've lost it.
Field 1-1, request startup.
So I'm going to go onto the threshold.
Field 1-1, clear for startup, wind 270 at 2 meters per second. Field 1-1, request startup. Field 1-1, clear for startup, wind 270 at 2 meters per second.
So you can see the ATC is not quite right yet. I'm not sure
Field
it's the same.
1-1, request taxi to runway.
In other modules, maybe it is. Okay, so
Field 1-1, request takeoff.
Okay, we're going to get QFE now, but I'm not going to worry about that.
You are cleared for takeoff when ready. Climb 300 at QFE 25.47.
Because I think it would take us a good lot of time to enter that in, and we don't need it. So we're set to take off. Oh, our lights are in the wrong position there. Okay, ready to take off now. Let's go. Switch them lights off now. So we can see we need to just adjust our direction when we get to the end of the runway here to head towards steer point 1, and we're currently 8.5 clicks from steer point 1. Altitude here is somewhere around 100 meters. Okay, so let's have a look at our speed indication here. So we can see our speed is 178 kilometers per hour, and that should be reflected on that gauge also. Gonna make our adjustment now. Now remember, your adjustment to meet the bearing point needle, you always turn towards the needle. And we can see our needle for our non-directional beacon there is shining, is pointing behind us. Let's see, almost east. Let's just try our other, well, we cleared our mountains on the left. Let's try our other beacon here. No, still not picking up anything. Okay, we're 3 kilometers from 1. And we're going to keep this function here. And we're going to enter in 2, steer point 2, by clicking on destination 2. And when we get close to it, I'm going to click the enter button. When we get to about 0.7 or 0.6, the needle starts to go skew, so don't chase the needle at this stage. I'm going to press the enter button now, and that didn't work. Let's go back up here and click on 2. Okay. Let's go back to our speed mode. We have a little deviation indicator there. It's a triangle, a hollow triangle, and I'm not sure what it means. I haven't really seen it in the documentation, so it might be a wind speed deviation, although I'd expect it to be more closely aligned when we were heading between steer point 1 and 2, or more deviated because the wind was coming across. We had a crosswind. Now we're heading into the wind and there seems to be a deviation, so I'm not sure. Okay, we're down to 2.2 miles, or 2.2 clicks. Now it's going to start dropping in altitude, because we're going to park up at waypoint 2. And we're going to set up for our targets. So I know they were somewhere in the west. Let's circle around and just bleed off a bit of speed. Don't want to get too far away from our steer point. Okay. Let's get a bit more stability. That didn't sound too good. Let's just check it. Okay, I think we're okay. So let's set up our weapon system now, switch on the camera. Switch on our laser. Let's go into pilot mode. Switch our weapons to active and switch to hardpoint number 1. So we're all set up here now, and now we're going to go into hover mode. Let's switch on also. Let's change to steer point 9, and let's do it the way we should have done it by clicking on destination 9 and enter. And we should be now on steer point 9 if we check back here. No, don't know why that's not working. Let's click it here. So we're on steer point 9 now. And we can center this. And we can zoom using this button. I have them mapped. Now what we need to be doing is we need to be facing in this direction for our target area. We need to be following the needles. So I'm going to go into hover mode, move back into our pilot seat. And I'm going to come out of collective mode with the C key, and you can see my collective is slightly higher than what I set it at during hover, so we should ascend in altitude. So this gives a bit better visibility. I'm going to bring it up a little bit above 90%. And now I'm going to go back to collective mode. Now I'm going to go to slave the camera pointing by clicking on the E key, and you'll see our aircraft now follows around, and I'm going to go into our co-pilot seat now. Now what I've got to do is I've got to slew the camera left. You can do this with the joystick. I have it mapped to my hat switch, my HOTAS. I'm going to turn the aircraft around until we're facing the correct direction, and we're going to start now looking out visually using the camera for our targets. Okay, I see them. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to start from right to left. Let's just zoom in first of all, and now I'm just going to check the distance because we've got a range of about 4,200 meters. So I need to uncage our laser and our fire button, and we can see we're 4,500, so we're a little bit far away. So I'm going to move a little bit forward, just taking a note of the bearing. Oh, it's 21. See what we're heading here by looking at our Nadir. So 208. Okay, so we'll keep that on. 208 degrees. And let's fly the aircraft. See, I adjust my controls to match the white marks on the mini hood there before I leave the autopilot mode. Okay, so need to pretty much head in that direction for a little bit. I don't want to go too far. Okay, so we're still heading. Okay, so that should be enough. Now I need to get back into hover mode. Okay, note that our camera still points at the vehicle. So I'm going to go to the co-pilot seat now. I'm going to switch on the slave mode, which should point our aircraft correctly. So that's it. Test again. So that's where we're within better range now. The last thing I need to do is switch on our master arm switch. And we got a little chevron here indicating that we're good to fire. So just align it and fire. You might need to just do some fine adjustments as the aircraft buffets around a little bit. Okay, that's good. Second one, I need to just move my hard point. Fire. Remember, the missile is following where the camera is looking. It's guided by a cable between the camera and the missile. Move on to number 4. Again, change the hard point and fire. Once again, I've got the hard point change button mapped, so it makes it easy for me to fire and change. What you can't do is you can't fire, or you can't change the hard point before the previous one has connected or has hit. And the final one is out here. Let's look at these targets are static because if they were moving, it can be hard enough to keep track of them. Oh, I think I missed that one because I just moved it at the last second. So that's it, 3 out of 4. It's not too bad. Okay, we're going to go back we're going to switch this into the off mode, and that parks the camera. And I can switch these off now. Master arm off. And we can come out of auto hover mode. And we can start heading back. We're going to go into our waypoint mode again and select steer point number 3. So that covers pretty much everything I wanted to do in this video. The rest of it is just returning to base and landing. So you might not learn very much from the rest of this. So thanks for watching, and feel free to make any comments as usual, and we'll see you the next time. Okay, it's good enough. We can go on to 4 now. There is a way of setting up the torque bug, and it's determined by a temperature that you can read off this gauge here, and an altitude based on this table here, and that gives you what your maximum collective should be set at. So you need to be, in order to do it accurately, you need to be knowing what altitude you're flying at. And it needs to change it as your altitude changes. It's not something I use. Generally for most things 90%, for, well, these kind of flights 90% is probably a good rule of thumb. Okay, let's get a call from the tower now. You might not have to go all the way to 4.
Infield 1-1, inbound. Infield 1-1, fly heading to 88, Fort 1, QFE 25.47, runway 32, to pattern altitude.
Okay, we're going to start turning in towards the finals now.
Enfield 1-1, cleared for visual, contact tower. Enfield 1-1, request landing. Enfield 1-1, cleared to land, runway 32, wind 270, at 2 meters per second. Enfield 1-1, taxi to parking area.